Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's a tape delay and with all solar winds.
Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork.
Don't see the curvature of the earth. That stuff is flat.
GLOBEBUSTERS taking over. Bye bye moonlight and rover. NASA so mediocre. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is GLOBEBUSTERs taking over. Gotta ride this roller coaster, but the truth is getting closer. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is. Get the shovel for the space hubble, piecing up the puzzle. Need a buster bubble, evil gonna crumble, yeah. Sit down, be humble. Got the body by the fumble. You'll get mad 'cause I just fight about your uncle.
And then they call me the liar. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable the pathetic techniques that they have to use to prove their heliocentric model.
Props at the president, Jeran got the evidence. Arrow slaying Jesuits and Zack is evident. That the earth electric and its residential residence is heavens, and I hope to settle in like some sediment. If we so wrong, why they lying to discredit it? That's not too intelligent. That's a guy, not an in court, but we ain't really in the settlement. It's time to awaken from the pseudoscience sedatives.
GLOBEBUSTERs taking over. Bye bye moonlight and rover. NASA so mediocre. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is. GLOBEBUSTERs taking over. Gotta ride this roller coaster, but the truth is getting closer. Sorry, but your ball is dead. But your ball is.
Inner World Productions.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
And welcome everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS Tech. I am your host, Bob Xanadude60, and we are finally back with another, supposed to be Wednesday, but a Thursday edition of GLOBEBUSTERS Tech. We're finally starting to get things back in order after our break, and trying to get things set up personnel-wise and all the nifty changes that I kind of wanted to make. And so we are back, but
We're back.
yeah, we're back. Totally. It's awesome. But I'm honestly wondering if Wednesday night is, especially at this particular time slot, is the best time slot for this. And the reason I say that is because, it's like 11 o'clock in the UK at 11 or midnight or anything like that. And, that makes it a pretty nice, a pretty long day for anybody over there watching it. So I don't know. You guys in the comments, tell me what you think. If maybe we could back it up a couple of hours or choose a different day or something like that. I mean, I don't know about Zack and Kyle or anybody else like that, but I'd like to make it as convenient as possible for the listeners, and hopefully without crossing swords with anybody else like Jeran when he does his streams. And that's kind of hard to do because everybody's doing a lot of live streams these days. But anyway, just keep that in mind, and make some suggestions, and we'll kind of consider it and go over it, because it's just strange. The Wednesday has kind of been not a good time slot so far, but that doesn't mean that it can't be. But we'll see what we can do with it. All right, so today's show, of course, is called Zero Proof for Spherical Earth. And the reason I named it that, guys, is because when you deal with ballers, right, they will tell you, where's your proof? Well, show us, you don't have any proof whatsoever. And I think anybody that knows, that has actually studied it, knows that there's nothing but proof for flat Earth. The fact that you cannot measure any curvature, we cannot measure any movement. No experiment in history has ever recorded any movement, whether it was done professionally or amateur, or by FE Core, or even by me, you know, with the fiber optic gyro. No, sorry, Globers, I did not detect the rotation of the Earth. You got that all wrong. And of course, we're going to, you know, at some point as we go through this, we'll explain again why that's true, but I don't think we need to do that today. But what I want to focus on is why, you know, the things that you guys claim for proofs are BS, because they are. You got nothing. You have no measurement, nothing conclusive that can show the movement of the Earth. You have no curvature measurement anywhere. Not one single test that's ever been done, unless you want to call Soundly's test a test, which that was a joke, in which case the Earth is about the size of the city of Denver, I'd say, with that ridiculous bridge going up and down. You know, you could have to have four-wheel drive to even get over the bridge on Lake Pontchartrain.
I'm just so shocked that is still circulating around. Like,
oh my
just
God.
watching the whole bridge bend in half, basically, and people are like,
bridge.
"Oh yeah, that's totally the curvature of the Earth." I'm like, "Oh my goodness."
It is.
Yeah, I've driven over that bridge twice, and it's flat, folks. I'm telling you. You can, there is not even a smidgen of that type of curve that he shows there. That's just ridiculous. I did the same thing on a flat concrete floor at work with a bunch of buckets and showed exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. And they'd sit there and show you that. And, I used to be stationed at Biloxi Air Force Base, or Keesler Air Force Base, in Biloxi, Mississippi, which, when we would take leave, we would go over to New Orleans, right? Because lots of partying, lots of great concerts, all kinds of stuff to do. So I went over that lake tons of times. And that little thing that Soundly shows you, literally, I doubt you could get up it with a four-wheel drive, straight up and straight down. That's just the mildest curve ever. And they throw that in front of your face and expect you to believe that that is accurate. That is the level of desperation that, these guys have gotten to. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that...
At least they disagree with Neil Tyson over there. You can't see curvature from the curvature of the Earth from 2 millimeters above this beach ball. Right?
That is so true. So true. So let me go ahead and introduce the staff we have today. We have with us Good Times for All, which is Zachary Zabal. How you doing today, Zach?
Hey, Bobo, doing great. Glad to be back and getting this rolling. I know there's so many new people in Flat Earth now. It's crazy. All the videos popping up and everything. And refresher courses, I think, is a great idea. Because even though you see so many people out there and they're spreading the word, you're still seeing some of them actually thinking we're like a disc floating in space. So there's still a lot of work to be done, folks. Even, just because they know that, okay, the water isn't bending this and that, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder if they actually believe that that's what we think it is, or if they're just trying to mock us by putting the divot, looks like a big divot, the Earth's on a divot that just got kicked up by a golf club. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Oh, also we have with us Kyle Adams. And Kyle, of course, has joined us as a GLOBEBUSTER actually late in last season. And then we decided to take a break right after he joined. So he's back with us, and we're looking forward to some really good stuff because he's got his own thing going on over there on his channel, and he's got debates going on and debate boards and all kinds of fun stuff going on. But I really like his videos. I like his style, and I like he gets his wife and his family involved in the project, and it's just pretty awesome. So how you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Just really passionate about all this stuff. It's kind of become an obsession for me, literally, ever since day one. I started looking into it, and all of a sudden, it's just like, once you start, okay, show me more. Okay, show me more. And then you got to go see every single video that they've made on it and just binging it. And I'm pretty bad when it comes to binging on, just all this stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. So, and I think Cami's going to join us a little bit later on. Right now, she's doing an interview. It's not airing live right now. They're pre-recording it with KGUP Live, I think is his channel name. And so they're doing their interview right now. And I think she's going to join us afterward at some point. So we'll be looking for her to step in, and then I would imagine that interview will be out in the next few days. And she's explaining a lot more about the magnetic model and why she has determined that, she's starting to lean more and more into the idea that, one of the biggest reasons for the baller deception is that they are definitely hiding more land. And one of the things that she bases that on is when she sets up her jigs, when she does the magnetic patterns and gets them to match essentially what we've got going on with the Earth, it shows that there has to be another major magnetic source that is off of our current normal map. So you would ask yourself, that's kind of interesting, right? So anyway, she's been working on that for quite some time. And, we've gotten so far past just trying to prove flat Earth. We're actually trying to get into a model that shows how it actually works. But because of the fact that so many of you have done your battle with the ballers, and, they just sit there and say, what do you got? You've got no proof whatsoever. And, we all know that's not true at all, but we're going to go through that and, name out some of those things. So the first thing I want to do is, you guys may have been watching the screensaver here, the thing I normally play a video in the background. And this video that we're playing is by a channel called 2018 Flat Earth. And I'm not sure if he changed his name from some other channel or I just ran across him one day, but this video came out, I think, today. And he's got some really interesting videos on here. He's got pretty interesting, rare footage of Antarctica and all kinds of stuff. But this particular video really delves into so many of the reasons why the spherical Earth is absolutely impossible. And so I thought that, I've always thought about making this long list and going down them. But then here I asked for it, and this guy just comes right out and does it for me. And so I'll put this in the show notes for everybody. But this is fabulous, and you can read what he's saying right here. I've got the CC on, but he talks about all the things that make the ball Earth untenable, impossible, and then we're just going to elaborate on that. So I'm not usually used to talking about what makes the ball Earth not work because they're, that would be everything. We've always focused more on, why the flat Earth works and, all the proofs that there are for it, and it's voluminous. I mean, there's a ton of them. So Kyle and Zack, what are some of your favorite ball Earth debunks? Like, kind of, I don't care which one he goes first, whichever, but what are some of the ball Earth debunks that you guys like to go through?
That's a tough question because there's so many of them. But lately, what's been really standing out to me are those ones that just very first in the beginning really help open my eyes to all this stuff. And so I just look at the school curriculum itself. I became a flat earther when I started to actually question a lot of what I was taught in school, and they just didn't really tell me so much how. They just told me what. And so, okay, how do we know? Or they'd claim the sun is on average about 93 million miles away. And so, okay, that's what I was kind of grilled into. It was grilled into me going to school, right? And if you disagree with that, all of a sudden you get docked. And I never thought about that before in my life. I just going through the motions. Oh, they're just telling me the truth. And then all of a sudden, one day, the flat earthers kind of find their way to me, and I start looking into it. And all of a sudden, how do they know that? I'd never been trained on how they came to that conclusion. And I started to think back on that. All of a sudden I found out my whole foundation was extremely shallow. And it's like, I just know this because my teachers told me so.
Right.
And I'm passing all my grades here. And just because I'm, just memorize the textbook, that's what you're supposed to do. But they don't really go into so much how they know these things are so. And so once that is broken, all of a sudden,
yeah, because
it just kind of opens up my whole world to like so many different possibilities. Well, maybe they could be wrong about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and Karina did a video that basically opened up I don't know, probably junior high school level earth sciences book. And right out of the box, they just start telling you, well, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. This is the way it is. They don't tell you why or how they came to that conclusion. It's just like, nope, this is the way it is. And it's like, well, isn't that kind of putting the horse before the carriage?
Yeah.
How is it that you came to those conclusions, And of course, when you ask things like, well, how did you come to the conclusions of like the Earth's radius or, the circumference or anything like that? Well, then they go back to, telling a story that happened, 2-something BC with Eratosthenes. And of course, that story is unverifiable completely. There's no record. We have no hard copy, nothing from Eratosthenes that describes that experiment or anything like it. In fact, it's nothing more than secondhand, third-hand, fourth-generation hearsay, and they have treated it as absolute fact. And of course, the flat earthers have debunked that every way but Tuesday, because that very same model, even according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, will work either on a flat earth or on a ball earth. But, you have to wonder when you look at the way that the sun, sprays out when it comes through a cloud, right? And you're looking at it going, well, those sun rays aren't coming in parallel at all. So why did Eratosthenes, or why would he even assume that? Was he really that stupid? Was he really that inept? I don't think so. But, again, backwards thinking, everything's backwards.
Then you look into the parallels with the whole NASA website. You just go straight to the sources there, and there's like, oh yeah, these rays are parallel. And then you actually look at the pictures there, and the pictures that they give you in their examples are not parallel rays. I'm just like, what? Are you serious? And they're like, oh yeah, they're parallel, just like these rows of corn down here, or rows of wheat. I don't remember. It just shows you like these field rows, but all those field rows are like converging together, and like very obviously all of a sudden you have two rows that are becoming one row. I was like, those are parallel to you guys? What?
Yeah.
I got to do a video on that one because it's just so funny.
Yeah, you absolutely should. And what I'd like to do is do these things like in segments, and then we can kind of put them together for, kind of an overall coverage, saying, well, and just link them together, right? Like they're meant to flow one right into another, and kind of minimize a ton of watch time for people, and put together kind of a curriculum for that. Because again, if we go out there, and believe me, guys, when I say we have all the proof, if you haven't realized that yet, you will soon, because we really do. And if you're armed with that proof, and also know what to say to the BS, excuses and the things that they make up that they believe are true, that have no substantiation behind them whatsoever, well, you're going to find it pretty easy to debate ball earthers. But that whole thing with debate, that's better off done with friends and family, I think, because when you go online and try and do it, there's an army of trolls out there that have been hired quite plainly to, what was it that Bob, the science guy, said? My job is to give you a better perspective on this, right? I mean, he admits he's a troll, right? But his job is to tell you what the mainstream position is on it. And since he's a doctor and, someone with credibility, well, if you look into his history, you'll find that he doesn't really have that. But then you're supposed to believe it. But it's just crazy. And again, we have backed them so far into a corner. It's actually to the point where when you ask them about the radius of the Earth and, you say, and you're talking about the horizon, right? And the distance to the horizon and all that stuff. Well, now the horizon went from being a hard geometric fact that the spherical work cannot work without, to, well, you can't see it. It's all relative, right? It's all apparent. It's an apparent position, which of course is exactly what the flat earthers have been saying all along. But, again, if you're 6 foot tall and you're standing at the edge of the ocean, theoretically, according to the globe model, you're going to see about 3 miles before the curvature of the Earth bends away from you. Well, now they're trying to tell us that you can't see that 3 miles away. It's like, are you kidding me? Not only can I see that 3 miles away, but I can see much, much further than that with a zoom camera or telescope or anything else. So where is this physical curvature obstruction that the globe model must have to make this model work? It's not there. And it's amazing the way they've completely backed off from this, and just essentially denying it, as over the past 5 to 7 years that we've been doing this. It's crazy. So,
yeah, and that's one of my favorite is the boats over the horizon. Because once there is still, you can find documentation. I mean, there's cameras, all these different things use the angular resolution limit in some of the technology today for optics. So they have calculators, there's all kinds of things. We can go look up Rayleigh's criterion and the angular resolution limit of the human eye or of a camera, and we can understand why we can bring things back in, with the actual physics. And this is old physics, like 1800s physics. We've known about this forever. Now it's only taught in art, really. I mean, they might go over Rayleigh's criterion, angular resolution limit, that kind of stuff, but they still teach it on like a ball earth. In art, they called it a vanishing point.
right.
But it was never described as a going over the curvature of the earth in art. It was still all about perspective. And this thing called Fraunhofer diffraction is what causes things to appear to go over the curvature of the earth. Now, the atmosphere definitely plays into it a lot. It can make things appear to do it a lot more. But even without an atmosphere, even if you had a perfect vacuum, just the limits of your eyes alone would make things appear to disappear bottom up when you're standing on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how your eyes work. And they can't hide this. The physics is out there. It's in so many books. I mean, once you wrap your head around this kind of stuff, that whole idea of, a curvature blocking your view just goes right out the window.
Yeah, exactly. And that of course would lead into another thing that I find utterly ridiculous. Is, all of their miracle distances that the flat earthers are photographing are able to see, the ball earthers are writing it all off to refraction, right? Well, first of all, refraction doesn't work the way they say it does. They build in a standard refraction figure of 7.6R, which is ridiculous because refraction can change at any minute with any weather condition, anything like that. And it's something that
wind
when
blows, there goes all your numbers.
yeah, exactly. And when you do see refraction happen, like every laser test that we ever did in FE Core or that we've witnessed other flat earthers do, we see those lasers take a shot upward, right? They don't bend down, they bend upward. And of course, that would be very much more consistent with a flat earth that it would do that, because if you think about a ball earth, again, I've said this a million times, if you fire a laser straight and level, then when you get out to about 100 miles away from where you fired that level, the laser beam is 6,667 feet above the earth, right? Which means that the atmospheric medium has gone to a far less dense medium, which means that if it's not going to be refracted down, it's not going to be drawn down at all. If anything, it would go the other direction. But, again, they just make these rules up like like they're actual reality, and they're not. And not only that, they also, say to us, so many things happen because, the atmosphere is spinning with the earth, right? And show me one scientific experiment anywhere where a gas will bond with matter and, completely take on its momentum in an absolute perfectly linear cadence from ground level to 100,000 feet. That doesn't happen. There's nothing that you can do. No experiment can you show anywhere that would show that happening. And of course, they say, well, it does happen, and that's why we have Coriolis. And it's like, no, we don't have Coriolis, because if we did have Coriolis, we would actually see things appear to go off in a different direction from the ground, but we don't, right? It's Coriolis is an illusion. It's not a real item. If the Earth was spinning and we were down on the Earth and you know, we saw a plane fly over, it would tend to change directions from our perspective, right? And that's very easy to demonstrate. But that again is only if we're turning and if the atmosphere is matching, you know, the Earth's speed. So they lose on Coriolis. They lose on gas attaching to the Earth and rotating with the Earth. I mean, they lose on the fact that they've got a gas that is next to a zero pressure area, a 10 to the negative 17 torr, and they lose on the fact that they've got a 14.7 psi pressurized system down at sea level, right? All of these things are impossible to make work. They don't work. They break all the laws of physics. So again, what else do they have? What else? You guys think of any other ridiculous things?
Real quick, back to the Coriolis.
Okay.
I did a math thing. If you were a sniper, right, on the equator, and your target was standing either north or south of you, and it was long enough away for your bullet to just travel for 1 second. That's a pretty long shot with a bullet, but they do that. You would have to aim 75 yards to the left or right, depending on which way you're facing, to hit your target if Coriolis were real. 75 yards to the side. No sniper in history will ever tell you that they shot 75 yards to the right and hit their target. Ever.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a troll in the comments on the chat who says, his name's Scorpion. Mr. Scorpion says, if there's proof that Earth is a ball and you think it's not real, then how do you know that Earth is flat? Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Scorpion, because we've gone out and we've measured it. We've done hundreds, if not thousands, of tests for optical measuring with a laser. We've used surveying equipment to do it. We have tested for motion with accelerometers, fiber optic gyros, and not to mention that there have been at least a dozen experiments that were done between 1880 and 1986, and every single one of them showed that the Earth was not moving, right? There's no proof of a moving Earth anywhere, none ever. And so that discounts that right there, Mr. Scorpion. And you don't have any proof that the Earth is a ball. I'm sorry, you're dreaming. Go ahead, Kyle.
The major difference between us and the standard curriculum that you see in all of the public schools is we are actually showing you that foundation. We're going through the hows. Okay, we make this claim and we show you all of the support behind the claim. That's what we're all about. That's why we do all these videos, is saying, okay, I've gone out and I just did this observation just the other day where I went out and looked at my shadow and said, okay, look at this. My shadow is pointing southward. Okay, this is a major observation. And based on that observation, I'm going to say that that means that the sun is out here in the north. And so I looked at the camera and pointed it towards the northeast and watched the sun rise in the northeast. That's a basic observation. And so we build upon that, we build a foundation of observation and experimentation, the very thing that we lacked in the public school system.
That's right. And beyond that, for what we don't test ourselves, we can debunk as far as what NASA is doing, because there is technology these days to be able to differentiate between a phony photograph, a modified photograph or video, right? There's metadata. There's all kinds of ways to detect whether or not these pictures have been edited, changed in any way. And not only that, the biggest proof we have is NASA themselves tells you that they have no pictures of Earth. And they have images, right? Because they're created in Photoshop. We know that. But there are no photographs of Earth, right? No photographs of Earth that are absolutely genuine. NASA will tell you that. What's up with that? With all the spacecraft...
They claim there was one, right? From 1972.
72, that's right. And that was phony as a $3 bill.
the last trip to the moon. Wouldn't that have been something you did on the first?
Yeah.
The very first thing you do when you got far enough away from the Earth would be take a picture of it.
Yeah.
And none of them did it for the very last trip.
Yeah. Or we get the ridiculous shot from one of the satellites from 1 million miles away that shows the backside of the moon going across the Earth, right? And, you know, it takes several hours to do that. And while it's doing that, the clouds never change on the Earth at all. It is blatantly phony, right? And it's like, and like I said, you don't have to be a genius, an expert to be able to tell, you know, when somebody has done something to the video or to a picture, right? You don't have to be. There are online tools that will assist you in determining that, right? And NASA does not have one legitimate photo of anything except all the stuff they put on the ground. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, what you're saying there reminds me of Jeran shared this picture straight from the NASA website of the aurora on Jupiter, I believe it was. No, it was Mars, because Mars has got those swirly stripes. So it was, isn't that right? Or was it like, I don't know, it was one of them. But he was showing the aurora on the top of it, and so he's like, "Whoa, wow, this is aurora on Jupiter," and all of a sudden. He compared that with a really old picture of the same thing. He's like, so you're showing me aura that's just been pasted on to this really old picture of Jupiter here? What's going on? And it's just like totally classic. And then all of a sudden in the fine print, yes, we doctored this image, and it's just like, okay, well, at least they're admitting it. It's just so out there. It's just like, why would they even have to do that if this was legit? But that's just kind of the stuff we deal with all the time.
Yep. So,
who was it that went into the metadata of the Himawari and pulled out that they actually used a blue marble?
That was Paul in the plane, and I can't remember the other guy. I've got the video though. And
we're having Paul on tomorrow night. Have no fear.
Oh, cool. They don't even deny it. It's right from their own FTP server. And by the way, guys, we have somebody else in the chat saying, explain moon phases on a flat Earth. Or, of course, we also hear, explain eclipses on a flat Earth. Well, you know what? It's a lot more likely the moon phases from what the flat Earth description would be. And remember, we are talking about two completely different models. The flat Earth model is an enclosed system. We have a dome over the top of us, right? These bodies are not millions of miles out in outer space, but so we may not be able to conclusively prove exactly what's going on with the eclipses, but we can certainly debunk certain aspects of eclipses on the ball Earth. And the Selenelian is the biggest one ever. I mean, when you have both the sun and the moon on the horizon of the Earth, and the moon is being eclipsed from the wrong direction, by the way, right? From completely the wrong direction, you cannot expect anybody that has half a brain to believe that refraction is drawing down the image of the Earth, of the sun and the moon to where we're seeing it at, right?
I think that's one of the major things that they got to remember here is the thing that really differentiates us between NASA and, the standard public school system is when there's something we don't know, we're totally okay in acknowledging, hey, we don't have all the answers. We don't know. We're still investigating. We're still learning. We're still discovering. We don't have to make all this stuff up and just tell you, oh, this is the way it is. Yeah, that's the public school system for you. They want to tell you the answer to everything. And because of that, they're exponentially wrong. We're off by a factor of 10 to the 100th power. I don't remember the number exactly with Michio Kaku, but that right there is a very excellent quote that you've just got to remember is, yeah.
Sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
I was going to say, I've done so much research on the sky since that's the first thing I did. I started with the sun. And 8 months, I had a sextant, my camera, took it out every single day that I could see the sun. And took a picture every morning as it was rising, every midday, at work, at lunch. That's what I would do. and then when it was setting. Did this for 8 months. And what I came up with was that I know less about the sun now. So when it comes to the sky, I don't even pretend to have, to know what's going. I can tell you what it looks like it's doing from our perspective, and I can tell you all the little things that people have discovered throughout history, stellar aberration and all this different kind of stuff. I've researched a lot of it, and I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever actually know what's going on up there. I don't know if that's for us to know. I know it makes
The
a
more
great
you
camp.
know, the more you know, the more you know you don't know.
Right, but you know what? You give me $65 million a day, I'll find some stuff out for you.
Oh yeah, we'll find out a lot more. Yeah,
You
I would
betcha.
love to have the actual data from some of these satellites that are, these balloons, the ones that get up there real high and are taking pictures and collecting data. I would love to know their exact altitudes and not, what's told Secchi and Soho and Lascaux. I mean, they were saying that some of these were on the other side of the sun, over 90 million miles away, like 120 million miles away.
I thought the
So
connection between the Sophia satellite and the Hubble satellite, it was just mind-boggling. Yeah, it was awesome when you understand the connection between those two.
Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. But anyway, getting back to, explain the phases of the moon. Well, in our model, the moon is self-illuminating, right? It is clearly not being blocked. The Earth's shadow is not causing the phases of the moon. There's so many things that are incongruent with that. Like the sun's position can be in a completely different part of the sky and in complete opposition to where the moon is lit up at, right? And then also when you look at eclipses, you should have something on the moon called Earthshine. And by the way, they try and show you pictures of Earthshine, but again, if you put those photos in a photo analysis and you look at it and you crank up the levels, you can see that completely has been superimposed. The image of the moon has been superimposed over the eclipse. And so they say, oh yeah, I just had to crank up my levels, right? And when the full eclipse was there, because remember, when you're dealing with the full eclipse, right? Like the one that we had in 2017, we had a 70-mile wide umbra, right? And when it went into to totality, there was only a 70-mile wide strip, which, by the way, defies all kinds of laws. That in and of itself makes absolutely no sense, that the shadow was only that size. But it was completely dark. It was nighttime there where we were in Nebraska, and the Earth still had 99% of its albedo shining back very brightly at the moon, and it should have illuminated the face of the moon. But not only was it not there, and you can't find it, and yeah, I know you're going to go out and you're going to find pictures, and I guarantee you if you analyze those pictures, you will find that they are phony. And one of the biggest idiots that tried to pull that off on us was Soundly. Again, we actually had Soundly on the show because he claimed that he got pictures of the Earthshine, right, on his, and we totally ripped it a new one. They put it in on the Green Channel on the. It was hilarious.
When you say superimposed, I'm still kind of trying to figure out what you mean by that.
When you superimpose, you basically put an image over another image. So
Okay, so they just copy and pasted the picture onto it.
essentially, but only on the Green Channel, and then they made it very low resolution, right? So that you really have to get a lot of playing with it and a lot of work to get it to come out. But after a while, you can say, oh yeah, that does look like the moon. But the problem is, again, you can see nothing. We can also look at it in infrared. We can look at it in different light spectrums. Guess what? The moon is not there.
yeah,
It is simply not there. And NASA has never, ever, ever shown us a picture of an eclipse of what's really going on. And they never will, because it's not the moon that's blocking the sun. And it's just absurd. So they're two different models completely. And most of the people that come in here and call us ignorant, they think they have all the answers because of what school told them. Well, I got news for you, people. School lied to you, and they didn't do it on purpose. But when you pass down a lie from generation to generation to generation, it simply carries on, right? And
Indoctrination.
it's an indoctrination. That's what school
Traditions
is.
of our fathers.
Yep. So, yeah, again, I really hate people that come in and say, oh, yeah, we have all the proof. Where is it then? Where is it? It's not there. And you guys have yet to come up with one debate. I have not seen anybody ever win a single debate on Flat Earth debates ever for the ball side. Never have I seen a single point that could be substantiated that the ballers make. In fact, all I've seen is 100% backpedaling, denying what they said 3-4 years ago about, the horizon. Now they're trying to say that when you're navigating with the sextant, that was designed for a ball Earth. And it's like, no, the hell it wasn't. It was designed for a flat Earth because you are triangulating. You cannot triangulate on a curved surface, right? And they just make these non sequitur, completely incongruent arguments, and they just keep getting their butt handed to them constantly. And all you have to do is watch and pay attention. And it comes down to the only thing they have left is calling names. You guys are so retarded. You're so stupid. Why don't you go back to school? It's like, no, we don't want to go back to school. That's the problem. The school is not a school. It's an indoctrination system, right? That's your problem, Mr. Baller, is you believed you were programmed by the indoctrination system and you fell for all of it. And you are simply unable to think outside of that box that they put your little block square head in. So
I got my bachelor's degree before I went and joined Flat Earth. And so I went through the system, and I know that if I go through there again and go back to it, if I immediately start off by getting to a test, my very first test of the semester, and they just tell you to, okay, here's what we just told you. Repeat back what we said. And if I say, I'm sorry, I disagree with that. When they force you to lie in order to pass, that's a problem. And I want to be able to go to school and actually disagree with my teacher with what they say. And I want to actually carry out discussions with them. But our public school system is not designed for that. You have to agree with it. Otherwise you fail.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
It's their way or the highway. It's their way or you don't
huge waste
get your
of
diploma.
money right there.
Yep. And why anybody would sit there and, why hasn't anyone won the 10K reward from MC Toon if it's so easy? Because MC Toon does not acknowledge any logical argument. MC Toon is a liar, or he's just stupider than hell, right? Because
I didn't even know he had a 10K challenge.
Oh, there's several people that do, but the flat earthers do too. There's been a $5,000 thing on Facebook that was sent out to every university in Europe and the United States offering, all you have to do is prove, in fact, we were talking about the eclipse models, right? Prove the eclipse models and you get $5,000. Well, you know what? Nobody could do it. And all of these letters were sent directly to the astronomy departments of all of these universities all over the world, right? So yeah, they say they're offering, but then again, we go to them with our proof and they go, well, that's not proof. That's just you saying so. It's like, no, that's us with our instrumentation, our measurements, which you never do, our experiments, which you never do, or the experiments that you do use are absurd. They're ridiculous. Like one of the things that I thought was the dumbest thing ever, Kyle, was when you were talking with, was it MC Toon or no, not MC Toon. Who's the other guy you debate?
Mr. Sensible.
Mr. Sensible, right? Well, he got this methodology of scrunching a picture on the horizontal axis, right?
That was MC Toon.
As MC Toon, okay. So they scrunch it, and what happens is because of the convexity of the lens that is photographing it, you will either get a slight curve or a very, very hard curve, one side or to the other. It's never perfectly linear or anything like that. And they will tell you that is proof positive of curvature. In fact, the first time we saw that done was with Red's Rhetoric and Sean Hufford and all those clowns, they were doing a show and they're like, oh, you want to see curvature? Here's curvature. And they took this footage from a drone and they did the scrunch, right? And it had, it had curvature at the very end. And it was so stupid. I couldn't believe it. So what Jeran did is Jeran took his camera and he took a picture of his granite countertop, right? And then he scrunched it and guess what? Wow, his countertop is curved, right? And then he took a monitor and drew a perfectly horizontal line across the monitor. And then he took a picture of it. Guess what? He scrunched it down. It's curved, right? So what these clowns don't understand with their scrunch method is that any curvature that comes out of that is a byproduct of the convexity of the lens of the camera that you're using. And depending on what focal length that you're using, you will have either more or less distortion, right? If you have
Neil
a wide
Tyson
angle.
acknowledged that. Neil Tyson acknowledged that when they did the Red Bull rampage, or it was the Red Bull drop. The guy goes up to the edge of space and he jumps out and look at all the curvature. And that's the whole thing with Neil Tyson. That's not the edge of space. And that was, for him, that was 2 millimeters above the speech ball. Okay. And so he's right there. Neil Tyson went and smashed everyone out there. Haven't you guys ever been up in a plane? It's like, okay, this guy is like way up above just normal cruising altitude. And he's jumping out here from, what they were claiming to be the edge of space. I don't remember how high it was exactly, but it was pretty far up there.
I think it was 21 miles, maybe 120,000 feet, somewhere 118, somewhere right around there.
Is a pretty
4 times cruising altitude.
Pretty crazy up. Yeah. It's pretty high altitude there, and he's jumping off from that. And Neil Tyson himself is saying that is lens distortion. And so even Mr. Sensible, when he did his Mage project, he made his own little balloon satellite and set that on up, and
named it Mage of all things.
Lens distortion was a problem. Yeah, I agree. So he acknowledged, there's lens distortion, so we've got to try and correct for that. And the major thing he didn't really take into account was the spotlight effect, because I can shine a light on a stage. And if I get a spotlight effect on that stage is going to look curved. And so he's actually getting ready to go do another Mage project. And I'm like, okay, Mr. Sensible, how do you plan on eliminating the spotlight effect? And I haven't gotten an answer back on that one yet, but I'll be very curious to see what he plans on doing in this next one.
Well, and another reason why I don't even look at these people's, whatever their challenges, Rory had a 5K challenge. Prove that perspective isn't taken into account in a curve calculator. I did it quite easily. Did videos on it years before he even did it. And not a word. Not even an acknowledgement.
Oh, my perspective, Rory? Yeah.
No, not Rory Cooper. This was Rory. He was a troll. His troll name was Rory.
Oh, okay.
We don't know any of these people's real names. They don't give out their real names.
No, they don't.
CIA, they don't want to blow their cover.
My name is Zachary Zabala.
That's your real name, and Kyle Adams is Kyle's real name, and Bob Nodell is my real name.
That's exactly my real name. Yeah, Kyle Jacob Adams from Laverkin, Utah.
Why we don't
look me up
pay
on Facebook.
to the challenge.
I don't like hiding behind masks. What we do really depends upon that amount of building a relationship of trust. And I can't do that behind a mask. So I'm just going to say, I might be doxing myself here, but, I really want you to know that I'm very sincere about my beliefs. So sincere that I'm willing to put my own name on the line to come out and share these things with you.
Me too. I started when I started my YouTube channel. That was it's taken down now. It was horrible 480 and bad lighting and, your first videos could barely hear me, but it was me saying my name, explaining why I'm doing this because it is so important. And yeah, it was a big deal to me to use my name. That was big on the internet, going out and saying that, hey, the earth is flat. especially
And
with
yet, for some reason, it's all of the trolls, the anti-flat earthers, who are so adamant about having false names, right? So yeah, you even get Mr. Sense. Well, I don't want to share my name. I don't want to dox myself. I don't want to do anything like that. And yeah, it's just like, okay, so he doesn't care about any kind of relationship of trust, but I do. So
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, so all right, so let's get back to some of these other stuff. Okay, another one I was watching just before we came on was a video that Potter's Clay did, and it was really super interesting because did you guys know that the moon is actually rotating at 10.3 miles per hour? Did you know that?
But I've heard that's the globe Earth claim, is that it's constantly rotating with as it's moving around the Earth. And
Right, and that's how it's tidally locked.
Yep.
Yeah, is that the kind of rotation you're talking about?
That's
with NASA's claim?
yes, it's actually rotating at 10.3 miles per hour. Now, I want you guys to think about something. If you're on a treadmill and you go from a walk to a fairly fast run, 10.3 miles per hour is pretty good rate of speed. Wouldn't you agree?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. So, in a good demonstration that he used is there were some guys they had their treadmill set at about 10, 11 miles an hour, something like that. And then, of course, they just jumped from the side onto it, and that threw them off and flipped them completely off. And then what you have to do is you have to realize that on the moon, there is no atmosphere to carry anything along with it. And you could make the argument, yeah, but you still have momentum, that if you go in the direction of the momentum, you're going to be okay, and that's fine. But when you're driving around and hopping and skipping in different directions, the second you go at a 90-degree axis to that 10.3 mile an hour rotation, you're going to fall on your butt. There's no way you're going to be able to stand up. Not to mention that it's highly unlikely you'd ever be able to land a craft on it, even if it's only doing 10.3 miles per hour, right? But they'd say that we can do that on Earth, and we can hit 1,000-mile-an-hour runway because, well, the atmosphere is glued to the via gravity. It's glued to the Earth, which, of course, once again, show me where any type of matter can bond with gas and make that happen. You won't be able to. So yeah,
their whole argument is kind of the whole thing with the car, the air in the car. That's their whole argument.
Yeah.
But even in the air in the car, that moves. As you've seen the video maybe of the guy who's got a balloon in the car and he moves forward, and all of a sudden the balloon actually moves forward to the front instead of going back.
Yep.
It's kind of a weird mind-boggling thing as the car accelerates.
Yeah, but the reason that happens is because the heavier air is being forced to the back of the car, and it's pressing those balloons forward. So they're more buoyant, and they're being
air is
forced
moving
forward
in the car.
Yep.
The air is moving in the car as the car moves. Yeah.
So yeah, it's so ridiculous. My God, it's unbelievable. And of course, one of the biggest conflicts that I have, with people and a lot of flat earthers, and I'm not going to back down from this one iota, because I've got a ton of proof to back up my claims, and Zack and I have been pushing this for quite some time. Do I believe in gravity? Nope, I don't. Gravity, whether you define it as bendy space-time, it's absurd. There's no proof. There's no proof of a graviton. There's no proof of a gravimetric field. Nothing like that. We don't even know how to describe it, let alone measure it or define what it is, right? But one thing I do know for sure is that there is something that is setting a precedent, showing up from down. There is a downward accelerative force, and we've gone into that time after time again, that this is an electrostatic occurrence that happens naturally when you are in an environment like the flat Earth. And the flat Earth is an enclosed environment. We're not floating around out in outer space. We have a firmament which has a charge to it. We have the Earth itself which has a charge to it. And when you apply a charge to these Gaussian plates, the sky and the Earth, you get a downward current flow, which interacts with the charge of every piece of matter there is. So you ask yourself then, well, Bob, how come things are affected differently, like hydrogen and helium as compared to lead? Well, the answer to that has pretty much everything to do with the atomic number of that element. right? What is the atomic number of hydrogen? I think it's like 1, right? And what that is that's essentially the charge potential of the element. And so it is not going to be anywhere near as affected as something like lead would be, or something that has a high density, right? But, and we can go on about this all day long, right? But the point is that, you know, to say that there is not a downward force and everything works fine just with buoyancy and density, that's not true. It absolutely is not true. There has to be something that takes away that equilibrium, right? It's all deals with pressure mediation in the world. And we are going to keep proving that. In fact, I've got some more proof today that I'm going to show you on that, which is really cool. In fact, when I do that, you guys want to see something cool? Go ahead.
Yeah, hold on. So I got to say here, the thing with gravity is we have to always remember Neil Tyson's words on that here when he said, or when he was asked, what is gravity? And he says, I have no idea. Next question. And so then after that, he goes and expounds on that. And he says, you know, we can measure things with it. We can make predictions based on these measurements. But when it comes to what it is, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And that was his response. And so that right there for me defines what gravity is. Okay, so gravity is this thing that causes things to fall that we don't know what it is. Okay, right. I have no problem with that kind of a definition. You know, that's a big, I don't know. It's very rare and seldom that you actually get, you know, people like Neil Tyson to actually come out and acknowledge stuff like that when they don't know the answer to something. And so I don't really have a problem with using the term gravity so long as it's understood that it is the unknown thing that causes things to fall. And so whatever thing you want to attribute that to, you know, that's a whole argument unto itself. But yeah, it's just the thing that causes things to fall. I'm totally okay with that.
I mean, it's okay for me if you use the word gravity, but when you start getting into like advanced physics, like MIT, I mean, Walter Lewin flatly states out that the electric forces felt here on Earth, the ones holding your body to the ground, are 10 with 26 zeros behind it, stronger than the gravitational forces felt here on Earth. So we don't feel gravity. Gravity does not make things fall. Gravity is what makes the Earth go around the sun, they say, or the sun to go around the center of the galaxy. That's what gravity is, according to physics.
About electrostatic.
Which, by the way, I disagree with that entirely, Zach. But which, by the way, I disagree with that entirely. I know that's what Dr. Lewin said, but that's what they have to say, because they have to come up with something that propels these heavenly bodies out there, right? So, and I think he may have gotten a little trouble for that.
I don't agree with that. No. I'm not saying that their version of gravity is correct in any way. I'm just saying when a real physicist, not Neil deGrasse Tyson, the actor, but when a real physicist uses the word gravity, he's not talking about the forces felt here on Earth. In higher education physics, gravity is not dropping something here on Earth. That's Neil deGrasse Tyson, the actor physics.
Yep.
He's never taken real physics. He took astrophysics.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't know anything
Which is not
about
science.
the physical world here on Earth. No, it's nonsense. It's all make-believe, made-up stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, their version of gravity is still bogus. It's still nonsense the way but when a real physicist talks about gravity, he's not talking about dropping a microphone on Earth. He'll tell you, oh, that's because the ionosphere is positively charged and the Earth is negatively charged. And, oh, we just learned the name. It's something to do with scalar waves. And a Tesla coil actually puts off these same types of waves. It'll make like an ionosphere around it, a Tesla coil will.
Mm-hmm.
But it does it flat, parallel with the ground. And that's how Tesla could send energy at long distances.
Yeah, which, by the way, is a really interesting video to watch. And I want to go in depth on that and cover that. But there's a lot that we have not been told, and a lot they do not teach you in electrical engineering school about some of these aspects of electricity, especially how it interacts with toroidal shapes. But yeah, very interesting stuff. So anyway, I'm content to say, well, gravity, the original meaning of gravity is gravitas, which means weight. Is there weight? Absolutely, there's weight. I don't deny that at all. But it's what causes that weight, right? And again, that's that downward accelerative force, and it is directly related to the basically the atomic number of the elements that make up the matter of mass, right? And the bigger something has, the more charge potential it has, and the more it's going to interact with this downward field that's going from the top Gaussian plate of the flat Earth down to the Earth. Okay, so now when NASA describes what gravity is, and they say, okay, well, we can measure gravity waves, and here's how we do it, right? They show us LIGO. Well, what is LIGO? Well, you guys have probably seen me do this before, but LIGO is nothing more than an overgrown Michelson-Morley experiment, right? It is a laser interferometer with two arms at 90 degrees from each other, two 4-kilometer arms. And this, by the way, is exactly what Michelson-Morley did, right? And to try and detect the Earth, the Earth's motion. And of course, they couldn't detect any motion. Well, that's because the Earth isn't moving. But so what does a laser interferometer have to do with gravity, right? So if a laser interferometer, what that does is that measures extremely minute changes, right? Whether it's in acceleration or distance or anything like that. I'm not going to go into how it works now. I've gone into it several times before, and I will go into it again. But essentially, it takes the frequency of a light beam, a laser beam, it splits it, and it sets it on two different paths. And so theoretically, there's one path that is longer than another path that light has to take. And when that happens, with light having more or less a consistent speed, absolutely not fixed by any means, you will get changes in velocity of the apparent light propagation, right? So what does that mean? So that means that, usually a laser interferometer of the Michelson-Morley type of configuration, let's put it that way, would be used for calibrating precision instruments, right? One day, when I was in Denver, I got invited over to a electronic equipment calibration shop, right? And he showed me their Michelson-Morley interferometer, and it was on a Friday night, right? And we went in there, and they were closed. It was like 7 in the evening, and he turns it on, fires it up, and everything powers it up. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and it's showing a very, very minute decrease in whatever it's measuring. And I asked the guy that I was with, well, what is it measuring? And he goes, you ready for this? When we left earlier at 5 o'clock today, we turned the heat down. And so it got cooler in the room. And so the steel and wood plates that the interferometer is mounted on is actually contracting. And the laser interferometer can actually register that and measure that. Now think about that. When you're talking about beams that are in the terahertz, or nanometer beams, think of the resolution that you can get. So again, what does that have to do with gravity? We don't even know what a gravity wave is. We don't know what a graviton is. Graviton is completely hypothetical. Nobody's ever seen one. Nobody's ever measured one. Nobody even has talked about what they actually are. They just say, oh yeah, it's gravitons, right? So they claim that they have measured gravity by saying that when a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, two black holes came together and collided, it sent a gravimetric wave, right, all the way 4.5 billion light years, right, all the way to Earth, and then it hits the two LIGO stations, and it theoretically, when that wave passes through these 4-kilometer tunnels, it changes the length of those tunnels by less than the width of a proton, supposedly, right? First thing you have to ask yourself is, how does it do that, NASA? How the hell does it do that? What mechanism in physics will cause this imaginary wave to change the physical construct of a steel and vacuum filled, construct, right? And not only that, my God, by less than the width of a proton, I mean, lasers are accurate, but that's pretty amazing, right? So what NASA is telling us is that they measure gravity using an instrument that is used for precision measurement of length and distances, right? It has nothing to do with that, but they also use this type of laser interferometer in a device called a gravimeter, right? And what the gravimeter is it takes, and inside of the gravimeter, it has a ball that drops down inside of an evacuated tube, right? It's a vacuum, right? So there's no air in there. There's no matter in there for it to interact with, right? Nothing of mass or density to change, right? And yet you can go to different places around the world, and the rate of acceleration which that ball falls at from when they let it go and when it hits the bottom will change, right? And it actually changes quite dramatically in some places. So now you're thinking, okay, well, I can see that. So then you have to ask yourself, well, what about gravity would cause that to happen? Well, of course, the mainstream position would be, well, it's because there's more mass there, or something like that. They don't really know, because again, they're trying to measure something that is imaginary with something that is meant for linear distance precision measurement, right? It's all horse shit. So anyway, one of the things that is really anomalous, and you guys may have heard about these places that are called gravity hills on Earth, and most people say, oh yeah, it's just an optical illusion, and stuff like that. But I actually looked into
video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
Did you?
There's one by my house, not too far away, up there in Indiana on County Line Road between Lake and Porter County. Yeah, I took my mom and we videoed it, and yeah, there's the video on YouTube, the gravity hill I went on. It was weird.
Did you put a level on it?
No, it was real busy. There was a lot of people. It was one that was being traveled a lot, so I really couldn't get out, and it was right in front of two people's houses. There was no place to pull off or anything. I wanted to go back and do a bunch of tests there.
Yep.
But
that'd be a crazy place to live.
Yeah. Well, so there are people that have gone and actually looked at these, and believe it or not, guys, these places are more numerous than you would think. And they are not just all optical illusions like the mainstream would have you believe. So I'm going to play a couple minutes of this video and just show you something that I thought was really interesting. This is from the Impossible channel. That is Impossible. And I like some of the stuff he has. It's pretty crazy and out there. But I saw this and I thought this is really cool. And the fact that they actually put a level on it and measured that, yes, the car was going uphill, really made it quite impactful and interesting. So let's play this for a couple minutes, and then I'll take your comments.
If you've ever researched mysterious places, you've probably come across the magnetic hills or the gravitational hills.
Alright, so this is Gravity Hill. Car's in neutral. And we're moving! And we're moving!
It's hills that can be found all over the world, slopes, where things that should go downhill actually go uphill.
It's the Earth spinning!
¿Viste? Sin que mi papá lleve nada, absolutamente nada, y es una pendiente. Mi papá va afuera y el auto va solo agarrando vuelo. Y es una pendiente.
Ahí va subiendo, ¿no?
Oh, y vamos subiendo.
Now, in most cases, these hills are just illusions. It looks like it's going down when it's actually going up, and there's a very good explanation to how these illusions actually happen. However, sometimes it's not an illusion. Sometimes it's something else, something that we can't quite explain. This is the case with this video that we're about to watch. Take a look.
That is downhill. See that tricycle? It's going downhill. If you look to the right, it's CBY's farm. If you look to the Other side. That is the top of the hill. As you can see, I'm going down. The elevation is going up. Now, Lorex will demonstrate that it is not magnetic, since you will see that the water, aside from cars, flows uphill. See those leaves?
I'll turn around, Al, and show where it's coming from.
See those leaves? Those leaves are going uphill. Not because of the wind. In fact, the wind now is blowing the other way. So if you see that here, that piece of leaf really streaming uphill, that is probably the only one of its kind here in the Philippines.
Now in this case we have water and everything else going uphill when it should be going downhill. Curiously, it's not the only place in the world where this happens.
Not even close.
Now there's another video coming in from another YouTuber in another country where he tries to prove that the gravity hill isn't an illusion. Check this out.
So we're just about what, like maybe like 10 minutes outside of Fillmore, California?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the downhill.
Okay, now look, it's flat right here. Look, see how it's flat
Yeah,
right
we're
now?
we're going downhill right now. But you're saying we're gonna roll backwards?
Yeah, we're gonna roll backwards.
That's even trippier, because this is not flat, this is downhill. All right, neutral.
Neutral.
All right, taking my foot off the brake.
Foot off the brake.
Get the heck out of here! What?
Yeah, we're going backwards.
Why are we rolling uphill?
Because gravity
Dude.
doesn't work.
That's got to be pretty strong to be able to move an entire
not
car,
impressed, man?
even in neutral.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, this is not something that deals with mass attracting mass or bendy space-time. This is much more explainable when you look at, there's probably something in that area like metal deposits or something like that that are changing the electromagnetic properties of
even underground running water will do that.
Exactly.
It'll create a current, and there's all kinds of things that can create underground currents. And if they're close enough to the surface, you don't know what they're doing. If you know the ground is more positive than the air above, things are going to kind of flip for a little bit until that fixes itself out.
Mm-hmm. And we're actually going to try and jig this up so that we can, show to you how we can, rig it up. Zack has already done it using his Van de Graaff generator, where we've gotten things to go and we've changed the polarity of it on the two Gaussian plates and gotten things to go up and stick. And I mean everything, because remember, not everything is magnetic, guys, but everything is affected by electrostatic. Everything. There are no exceptions. Not anywhere. Everything is affected by electrostatics. So that's why we're saying that this is exactly what's going on. And, like I said, this whole 100 volts per meter is measurable. It's demonstrable. You have mainstream physicists that acknowledge it's there 100%. Well, they can't deny it because anybody can measure it. There's lots of people that are going out as hobbyists, trying to collect atmospheric electricity, and you can do it. You can actually even collect decent amounts. I mean, not enough to power a house, at least not with the configurations that they have now. Although I have a feeling that they probably were able to do that in the past and they kind of got away from that secret. But the bottom line...
I saw one guy with some big transformers, like 6 of them lined up in a row. And he was creating enough power to run his house.
Yeah.
Off of 2 poles, like, I think it was 40 yards apart, and a wire connected between them. And then he ran that wire down into his shed, and in his shed was all this stuff. This electronic, it would have been real expensive, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Big transformer. Like
Josh Hooker in the chat says, Bob, I'll take a video this weekend of the one here and email it to you. That would be awesome, Josh. And if you would, take a level and let's see what the level says, because, on these experiments, they're actually going to whip out a level and show that to you. And it's amazing. It really is. And of course, they cannot just say that they're all optical illusions, because they are not. And typically, and I've said this a million times, when there is a so-called gravitational anomaly, there is usually in the vicinity a magnetic anomaly as well, since they are kind of cousins, in a way. So let's watch a few more minutes of this, and then we'll proceed.
I mean, it's all right.
In this case, a YouTuber by the name of Brian brought his girlfriend and a friend to test a gravity hill just outside of Fillmore, California. And at first, his friend wasn't impressed. He thought it was an illusion, but they did bring equipment to test it, and well, they were surprised.
So we have a level here on the iPhone.
-2 degree downhill slope.
Downhill. It could be better. How are you not impressed? How does that make sense to you?
I thought the level would have it going that way. Now I'm kind of getting hyped up. It's getting a little weird.
In this case, Brian and his friend proved that it's not an illusion. It's actually supposed to be going downhill, but it's not. While using a level, they find out that it's -2 degrees down. Impressive, isn't it? So if it's not an illusion, what's really going on here? Now, there are other places.
Okay, well, that's just it. The mainstream has no idea what's going on there, or if they do, they're not allowed to let it out. But really, people, the answer is so simple. It's so simple. You know, and of course, the mainstream has to make it confusing because, again, they have to extend this model of gravity to make explanations for what we see in the heavens, right? And the flat earthers' position is, look, we don't know what those lights are. I have my opinion on what they are, and that's one of the reasons why I think astrology was always considered an incredible science. And frankly, if you've ever had a reading done for you by somebody that really knows their shit in astrology, it's absolutely amazing because they can sit there. I had some people do a reading on me that were telling me about some of the health issues that I was having right at that moment. And I'm just like going, you got to be kidding me. You came up with this out of the stars. And they're like, yes. And so what's the theory? The theory is that all of the stars and the constellations and the planets are energetic points of light, and they form a matrix. And that matrix we are swimming around in. And as the heavens move around, it changes and makes certain variables more dominant and less dominant. Or you can be physically stronger, you can be physically weaker, you can be mentally more adept or not, or all these things that affect us, you know, even luck, right? Stuff like that. And all of these things that, you know, astrology, for years and years and years, people could really get this down to a science and tell you what was going on with it. And of course, now in the mainstream 21st century, they say, oh, that's, you know, go read your horoscope. That's all horse manure. And for the most part, it is, right? But like I said, when you really take the science of astrology seriously and investigate it yourself, it'll blow you away. It is amazingly accurate. And
well,
again,
the daily horoscopes aren't made for you. You know, they're not. I mean, your horoscope, when you have it read, they need to know where you were on Earth when you were born, you know, the time of birth, all that kind of stuff. And then they take the stars and planets that were in the sky during your birth and the effect they had on you, and then apply all this other stuff to it.
That's right.
It's really intricate.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, none of your business says, no, they're talking to demons or familiar spirits. Come on, man, get real. They are not doing that. The science of astrology has these things cataloged very in-depth about what influences, what constellations, what cause, what influence, what the planets do, their energetic signatures, which, by the way, we can see with digital cameras, right? We can see these cymatic energetic signatures, right? Remember that, cymatics, and how creation comes into effect? We can see it now.
Any kind of seance or anything like that.
No, we're not calling up the demons or
with the stars. There's no talking to the stars going on here. Yeah, the Bible itself says that the stars are there for signs and for seasons. And so when we are actually looking at the stars for signs and seasons and indicators of kind of what's going on in the world around us, that's definitely not communicating with spirits. Though there are many instances in the Bible that do refer to stars as spirits. So I can kind of understand that aspect of it, but there's different there's different kind of things going on here.
Yeah.
They were never ever called demons. Those were the angels that, you know, are doing their job. They're always going to stay in a fixed position, and they're always, you know, that's their job to do that. to march in a circle above us overhead so we know what time it is.
And guys, we will be having some professional astrologers come on. Maybe even, oh God, what was Ben's partner's name? He's the flat earther that lives over in Europe. Oh, come on. He did the interview with that physicist. I'm totally losing my brain here. He's an astrologer, flat earth astrologer. We can have him back on and talk about it. Or I actually met a couple that were talking about my health issues a few months ago that blew me away. And, you know, they said, do you want to elaborate on that? And I'm like, no. But
I've always wanted to know more about the man behind the curtain, because that was always my biggest thing with astrology is there's always the man behind the curtain. They're telling me all this information, but they're not really telling me how they came to that conclusion. And so, or where they came up with this information. And so, yeah, when I don't know about that, obviously as a flat earther, I've got some major trust issues going on. And so I want to be able to say that I want to have more confidence in what they're saying than I do with what NASA's saying. You know what I mean? I don't want to see them as kind of parallel entities, I guess you could say.
yeah, well, and you know, I've kind of followed a rule of thumb for the last 20 years that if the mainstream craps on something, it's probably something you should be looking into. If the mainstream is pushing something, it's probably something that is not good for you in any way, shape, or form. And I'll bet you that 95% of our audience at least will agree with that sentiment, right?
I just look at the Georgia Guidestones and the way the media is covering that very, very delicately. They're not really condemning the Georgia Guidestones. They're not cheering their destruction. They're like, maybe we should actually like go and rebuild that. I'm like, really, guys? You really
They said it
want to
was
try
an
and rebuild this?
American monument.
Yeah, it's just the way they
mainstream media is calling it.
Yeah. That's very telling right there. Just the way they've.
Mark Knight, wakey. Thank you, Dan Morris. Mark Knight, wakey. Who we've had on the show before several times, but yeah, it is truly astounding. And of course, like I said, the mainstream wants you to believe that astrology is, you know, your Sunday newspaper line of bullshit, and it usually is, right? They'll just say anything that could be applicable to anybody. But when you put astrology and its tools into the hands of somebody that understands it, oh my God. And all I can say is if you haven't experienced that, it's something you should. So yeah. All right. So anyway, so basically, you know, here we have this proof. We have something that is clearly level showing the opposite direction, or downhill showing the opposite direction, yet the car is rolling backwards. What is this force that's causing it to happen? Well, again, it is an electrostatic charge anomaly that is going on there, I guarantee. And I'd love to take some equipment into those areas and do some really in-depth tests with some more accelerometers, gravimeters, et cetera, and really kind of look at these types of sight very closely. Because like I said, and we all know this, guys, the idea that gravity is this mass attracting mass is BS. It's just completely BS. The idea of gravity being a modality of the ether, and something that affects everything that is electrical, which is everything. We live in an electrical world. It only makes sense, right? So again, when I talk about how easy it is to start proving the flat earth, and that's why I want to start making a model, and I have been, we've shown you gravity. I showed you basically the construct of how this works and where we get this 100 volts per meter of voltage and where it comes from. And I also believe that the ancients knew how to harvest this to a very high degree of a high Q, right? To be able to get a maximum efficiency out of it, where they could literally power everything with it. And of course, because now people want to get rich with fossil fuels and control the world, well, obviously that's all been changed. And that's why, Nikola Tesla died, in a hotel, homeless, in a hotel, and, looking like a crazy loon, right? When he was one of the foremost geniuses of all times. But
I think that's kind of what they do with the dam generators, is they're just taking the energy that's already there, just the motion of flowing water, and they're just harnessing energy off of that with all of the major dams, like Hoover Dam, for example, and all of the generators that they just attach to that. It's just free energy right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the exact opposite almost happens in the nuclear ones. It's not like they have some kind of nuclear energy converter that converts. No, they take water and it has, when they put these two things together, it gets real hot. And it takes a long time for the process to happen. I mean, it gets hot real fast, but it stays hot for a long time. So they put that down in the water, it creates steam, and the steam turns a turbine. Just the opposite. And they use steam going up instead of water going down.
Steam power. That's really all it is. It's just taking some hot elements and getting steam power out of it.
Yeah, combustible type stuff. Exactly. But 0 point energy is very real. We have several examples of perpetual motion devices, and we've been told time and time again by mainstream science that it's not possible. And yet there's a million devices out there that you can build yourself that perpetually will stay in motion on and on and on forever. Now, over unity, that's a little bit more difficult to prove, meaning you get more energy out than what you put in. But I also tend to believe that when you understand the enormous potential and that this is an electrical realm, if you understand that that is true, then we should be able to come up with some very effective and efficient ways of harvesting that energy. And we shouldn't have to be paying for fossil oil fuels, BS, stuff like that. But again, that's part of the controller's game plan. And that's that's the thing we're under right now. And most of the world is under that spell. So anyway.
Yeah, you just kind of got me on a tangent here. I'm just thinking about how water desalination, they're always making a big, huge push on fresh water, right? And all you need to do is just get that big, long pipe. If you get a nice hot pipe that's connected to a cold pipe that you can throw underground, for example, all the steam can go up there and you can get a natural still going on. But for some reason, oh no, water desalination is too complicated, but it's really not. It's just there's two pipes. The two pipe system would do it just perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So, speaking of stuff like that, and let's go ahead and elaborate on this. Zach sent me this video this week by the Action Lab. I'm sure you guys are familiar with him. And I thought it was interesting because he asked the questions, can gyroscopes provide free energy for the planet? Well, I will say this. If the planet was actually moving and was actually rotating, then the answer to that is absolutely yes. It could, right? Because all you have to do is set a gyroscope in counter motion to the Earth's spin, and you can then attach a generator to that, and you can make electricity all day long. But it's funny to listen to this guy. He talks about how theoretically it's possible, but somehow they could never make it work, right? And they come up with all these stupid reasons why it doesn't work, when the reason that it doesn't work is because the Earth is not moving. You'd think that they would figure that out.
This thing tried in Russia. I had never even heard of this until I saw this Action Lab. And I studied gyroscopes a lot after I got mine. Yeah,
Doesn't it take like a whole bunch of energy to get it going, though? I just don't see the kind of potential outcome. Like, it takes so much energy to put it into motion, and yet it just moves a little tiny bit. It's apparently supposed to be, that little tiny drift is supposed to create energy somehow. What?
Well, you have to think on a planetary scale, Kyle. If the Earth is moving at 1,037 miles per hour at the equator, and it is an angular momentum, then obviously there is a lot of energy that can be tapped there by the gyroscope, because what does the gyroscope do? It's the gyroscope's claim to fame, rigidity in space. So if you put a gyroscope that offers resistance to that motion, there's no way that the gyroscope's going to win, right? It's going to lose to the Earth's motion because its mass is simply so much more, right? And when you do that, then you can hook those gyros then to generators. And bada bing, you can generate energy. So it makes perfect sense. And this, by the way, I took and I tied it into the inertial guidance system in the ISS. And I was doing that research before we came on. They have 4 gyroscopes supposedly on the ISS that keep the bottom of the ISS facing towards the Earth at all times, right? Well, they do that by methodology of firing up these gyroscopes, supposedly, right? But I started thinking about that. It's like, okay, wait a minute. We have something that weighs God knows how many tons. I don't have the specs in front of me right now. And we have it traveling at 17,500 miles per hour. My God, what an inertia that those gyros have to overcome, right? So in order to be able to do that, to keep the bottom of the ISS down, those gyros would have to be enormous, mammoth, right? Because like I said, it's not even so much the fact that, it's so many tonnage, but it's going so fast. And when you get that much weight going that fast, you're not going to be able to change it very damn easy, right?
Where they all had
you
them.
see the contradiction here between the claims with, oh, well, planes, they naturally tilt their nose down all the time. You don't ever have to manually tilt the nose of the plane down. It just naturally does that with gravity. But all of a sudden now they're going back and saying, oh, no, but you don't have to do it. Totally different with the ISS. The ISS, you actually do have to tip it down.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah, God, that's a good one, Kyle. I never even thought of it.
Totally contradictory.
Well, they wouldn't have to really, because if they didn't, then theoretically it would go out and it would get to the front of the Earth, and then it would drop down to, and as soon as it went past the equator and went below that, then the Earth's gravity would have to pull it backwards, right? Well, oh my God, can you imagine what that would feel like? Suddenly you're going 17,500 miles an hour in one direction, and then you're going in the opposite direction, not to mention all the other motions of the Earth, right? So I think that, they're trying to, they tell us that story just so they can make it sound realistic, right? Because
they're going fast. But every 45 minutes?
Every 90 minutes, they go around the world.
90 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, every 90 minutes.
And
that would
the inertia is out of this world when you have something that heavy traveling at that speed, and you think that gyros are going to flip it over. I personally don't believe it.
Of the gyroscope. Did they ever show the size?
No, they show diagrams of it, and I actually got a video of it, and I'm going to go into it a little bit more, basically to debunk it, maybe do the math on it and see exactly what kind of energy it would take to do that, because frankly, I ain't buying it, but I don't think anybody's ever questioned it, to be honest with you.
And I couldn't believe where they had them. They had them all in the center of the same compartment. It wasn't like they were spread out. I thought they would be at the farthest corners, kind of like a drone does. The drone doesn't have its fans all at the center. It spreads them out. So if it needs to turn it or something like that, it's easier for it to turn it.
Absolutely. Well, and that's another thing that's so retarded about the ISS design, right? I mean, who is the engineer that designed that? What a moron, right? You would want to keep your center of gravity close, right? Not strung out all over the place, because of the fact that when you get a weight out at the end of an arm, right, you have a moment that increases exponentially. And so it's like trying to pick up a 10-pound weight that's on the end of a 5-foot rod, right? Where it would be much easier if you just picked it up, close to the 10-pound weight. You understand what I'm saying? You have your moment and your length, and then you have your resultant energy there. And that's one thing that gyros are really good at taking up. But I think in the case of the ISS, there's no way that could work. They would have to be mammoth, but I may be wrong. So I'm going to hold off on saying that positively for now. But you guys see what I'm saying, right? I mean, it takes a lot of energy to overcome a momentum like that. An inertia like that, right? Objects in motion at 17,500 miles per hour that weigh, mega tonnage are going to try and stay in that motion, let alone changing all the time.
A fully loaded semi on the road, any truckers out there know it doesn't stop on a dime.
No.
It takes a long time to stop that truck.
Yep. So, and right now, I mean, what I did find, I found a description of how it works on the ISS. I found a video on that, but no specifics. So if anybody finds any specifics on this inertia, let's see, what was that? Let me find it really quick here. What was that video called? It was ISS attitude control. This one actually had a decent explanation, but like I said, nothing real specific. Called ISS attitude control, torque equilibrium attitude and control moment gyroscopes. And you know, like I said, they show these gyros. Where are they? Right about here. Right here in this section. And supposedly these 4 gyros are capable of keeping that bottom of the ISS facing down at all times. Not to mention the fact that, of course, they always change their positions when they have people dock with them, right? So that they're going the right speed, supposedly. I mean, they're miracle thing. They're absolute miracle workers, guys. It's amazing. But anyway. All right, so let's play this and let's hear what he says. This is for fair use and commentary, so don't strike us, Action Lab. You've tried it before. I will appeal it. This is absolutely for commentary, fair use, educational purposes, and everything else that falls under fair use. Here we go.
Today we're going to be seeing if it's possible to extract energy from the Earth's spin using gyroscopes. And thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. The amount of energy contained in the angular momentum of the Earth is huge. Let's say we wanted to harness some of that power and just reduce the rotation of the Earth a little bit so that it slowed down the day by 1 second. Well, we could harness around 10 to the 24 joules of energy from that.
Of course, one thing that he fails to mention is that, you know, they tell us that if the Earth slowed down or stopped, you know, all hell would break loose. People would be running around naked, you know, insane craziness. All hell ensuing. But that's okay.
All the water goes flying out.
Exactly.
10 to the 24 joules.
Yeah, that's a lot of energy, bud.
Yeah, how much is a joule compared to like a gigawatt?
Well, you would probably want to compare it in terms of newtons or horsepower or something like that. But it is a crap ton of energy. We'll have to do a breakdown of the different energy conversions so that people can actually fathom this, right? Because you tell them it's that figure in joules, they're like, what the hell is a joule? You know, what does that mean? And all I can tell you right now is it's a lot of energy. It's a crap ton of energy. So the story's building. It's good so far. Let's hear what else he has to say.
Well, that would be enough to provide America with enough energy for 83,000 years about. But the question is, how do you extract some of that rotational energy into usable energy that we can use in our everyday lives? Normally, to extract the energy from something spinning, you have to be external from the thing spinning and then extract the energy from it. But if you're on the thing spinning, how do you extract the energy then? Well, you would need something that's able to stay still relative to some external reference frame. And what do we know of that stays still relative to external reference frames? A gyroscope. What I have here is a gyroscope that's able to move freely in any of the X, Y, and Z coordinates. But now watch what happens when I get this middle cylinder spinning really fast so that it has gyroscopic motion. So no matter which way I spin it, it stays pointing the same direction. You can see it a little bit better when I put it on a turntable and then spin the turntable. You'll notice that the turntable just spins around the gyroscope. So this is now pointing in this direction. The gyroscope is going to want to stay upright now. But now what happens if I spin this turntable below it? Let's turn it on and see.
Okay, so guys, while you're watching this, think about something really quick. Think about how much inertia the ISS is generating traveling at 17,500 miles per hour when it has to keep rolling over every 90 minutes. And then say you stuck this gyroscope on it, right? And the gyroscope's obviously going to offer a certain amount of resistance. But that would be akin of you know, putting a drop of water in the ocean, right? That's why I'm saying that I believe that the gyroscopes that they would be using would have to be massive, huge, to be able to control anything like the ISS or change its orientation. But just something to think about there. Let's continue.
I'm just thinking here about how inefficient we are with all of the energy that's continually around us all the time. And so I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. It's a bell that goes off of a candle. You light a candle and you put this little thing on top of it, and it rings a bell and like turns a fan just from the
heat rising.
The heat that rises off the candle. I thought it was like, wow, that's amazing. And so can you imagine like at all the different metal foundries, you've got all these different factories and they've got all this, raw heat that they're producing, and they're putting all this stuff in the air as they're doing it. Just think about like every brick foundry. Okay. You've got these great big, huge chimneys that they're doing their ovens in. And I just think of going to school over here and doing ceramics and how they get these big kilns and they fire those up. And I just, we can just look at every pizza place, go to Little Caesars or Domino's or whatever. They've got all these ovens in here, and all they use that energy for is to make their pizza. And then all of a sudden they just release all of that heat out into the atmosphere through their roof. And, imagine if you could just harness that heat right there, about how much it's so inefficient, our system right now. But if every oven could get turned into a electrical generator just off of that heat, do a little steam thing out of every oven, it'd be a much different way.
Yeah, but Kyle, you have to understand there's a thing that's called the Q of the circuit, or the efficiency of it, right? And in order to generate the amount of heat that is turning those vanes, right, that turn that little thing in a circular motion, you're using so much energy from the candle. And believe me, if you were to put a generator on that little vanes thing, you would be using considerably more energy from the flame of the candle than the generator itself could generate from the rotational motion, right? So you have a power in figure, and then you have a power out figure. When it's under unity and typical, when you have a higher power in than you do a power out, it's called unity.
That's always going to be the case. That's always going to be the case. When we fire up the oven, it's going to require more energy to get it to fire up than you're actually going to get back out of it. There's going to be that.
That's exactly right.
That lost energy. But that doesn't mean we can't do whatever we can to save all that energy that we're putting out by it. Does that make sense? We're just losing.
Sure, it does.
We're just wasting it. And that's kind of built into the system. They kind of want you to do that right now because the power companies want to make all the more money on it, right? They don't want you to save all this money, all the energy.
Over in I think it's Denmark, maybe somewhere there in that part of Europe, they're actually using piezoelectrics now because they have so much foot traffic along the streets that they are putting piezoelectric pads, which is crystals, probably quartz. When you crush quartz, it puts off an electric charge. So they're taking these pads, and as pressure is being applied to the pad, they're gathering the electricity from that, and they're powering their streetlights with it.
Wow, just imagine that like on a freeway or something that's getting high traffic with cars and that's amazing. That's you could be making so much electricity just off of a freeway, just off of your own weight that way. I think that's
I've always
genius.
said the waves. I think the waves, we have high tides and low tides. Every place that there's a tide, we should have piezoelectrics.
Yeah, any place that there's
you wouldn't even have to see them.
Yeah, any place there's a motion.
So many ways to make electricity. It's ridiculous. Just pulling it out of there. We watched that before with the drone. You just send the drone up into the air. And I was saying, do that with like height, and you can just harness electricity out of the air. There's so many ways to collect electricity, and yet they're charging us out the wazoo for it.
Right. And what they use now is they use generators over dams, right? Dams, the water turning the generators. Well, that works, and it's technically free, I suppose, but it's not real efficient. If they could harness the waves of the ocean, that would be great. And if the Earth was actually turning, not only could you harvest that energy, it would be enough to power everything forever and ever and ever.
I'm pointing too many fingers here because I'm saying it's all their fault. It's all their fault. But really, all it comes down to is it comes back down to me. I'm the one who's got to be, independent enough to stop relying on them so much. I've got to go figure out how to harness that energy myself. And that way I don't have to wait for them to give me everything. That's kind of the dependent programming I've been built into, and I've got to throw that off of me and say, you know what? I'm done with that. I'm ready to go collect it for myself.
Yeah. They've made us all,
that's what I got to figure out how to do.
They've made us all lazy and complacent and dependent on the system. And that's unfortunate. So anyway, let me continue running this, because I want people to understand what he's really talking about here. And obviously what he says is true, and if there was motion to the planet, this would work, but it doesn't because there isn't.
You can see the gyroscope just stays exactly the same way it was facing before. It doesn't want to change directions. You can see what this looks like when I spin around with the gyroscope. It looks like the gyroscope is doing the spinning. So how are we supposed to extract energy from this? Well, notice how when I was spinning around in a circle, it was as if the gyroscope was just turning on its own. So what that could mean is that if you just get a gyroscope spinning up fast enough and have it pretty frictionless, as the Earth rotates, it's going to stay pointing the same direction it was when you initially started spinning it. But as the Earth rotates around, it's going to appear as the gyroscope just starts turning. And if you had the pivot points be little generators, that means you could technically generate power as the gyroscope just magically turns around in the air. Well,
and he is 100% absolutely correct about that, right? But what's so funny about this is when we do gyroscope tests to prove to the ballers that there is no motion to the Earth, you know what they say? Oh, well, it's so slow and it's so weak that the bearings on the gyro keep it from turning. It's like, get real. And they really say that too. They say, no, the bearings, they're being restricted, so that's why you're not measuring it. It's like, no, I don't think so. They would pick it up in a big way. And it's just absurd. Yeah, and even I've shown U.S. Navy training videos that say that absolutely this should be happening. The gyroscopes in all of the airplanes, when I got my pilot's license, they were using these electric gyros, and also the type that they have the pendulous vanes, right? They're blowing over the top of those. And, these kind of gyroscopes should absolutely, as you are flying along, should absolutely be showing the pitch change of the airplane as you go around the world. Well, they don't. And now, of course, they say, well, it's because it's all computerized inertial navigation systems now. But and that's why I want to do this one test, is get a bunch of gyros, put them on a plane and just fly in one direction. And you will see that never changes. I took a set of gyros all the way to Hawaii, and it never changed pitch once. And it should have been over 90 degrees. So anyway, it's just absurd. But let's continue on.
This idea was so intriguing that in the 1970s, the Soviet Union started a top secret research facility in order to try to extract energy from the rotation of the Earth using gyroscopes. But after decades of research and many failures, there was no extraction of energy from the Earth's rotation. So why is it so hard to extract energy when it seems like it would be so easy?
Because it's not moving. There's no rotation. That's why.
Well, let's look at this a little bit closer and see what might be the problem. We said we wanted to extract energy from this. So to do that, you're going to have to apply some resistance to the thing that's rotating. That resistance could be an electrical generator that you're generating electricity with, or you could be winding up a big spring that eventually will unwind and generate some electricity for you. But in any case, we want to apply some resistance to the rotating gyroscope. So as we're spinning around here, let's see what happens if I apply some resistance to this. You can see that it actually just falls over on its side until it's completely flat, and now it doesn't rotate anymore when I rotate. Little resistance here, turn a little more, turns a little more. Now it's completely on its side. So it seems that all is lost. After just a slight rotation of the Earth where you're applying some resistance, it's going to turn the gyroscope on the side. So now the gyroscope isn't going to apply any rotation that you can extract energy from. So you can see that the gyroscope always ends up wanting to align its axis parallel to the Earth's or the spinning axis. This is actually the way that a gyroscopic compass works. So it seems that it's...
God, how blind can you be? I mean, it amazes me. This guy is smart, you know? He is very smart. I love his work, but my God, he cannot understand the obvious. The gyroscope, the way it works, it's inertially based. It is so simple. And the only answer that can answer why this doesn't do this, why this doesn't work as described, is because nothing's moving. Now, if you put this gyro on a rotating plate and then hooked his little generator up to it, I guarantee you he could do that. Guaranteed. But, and you got to know that they probably breadboarded that, you know, before they did it. What'd you say, in Zack in Russia? They probably did a small mock-up of it, right? You put something like this on it, and maybe we could even do something like that and show that it could actually generate a little bit of energy. Huh?
It said that the Russians spent decades trying to get this to work.
Yeah.
That's a long time playing with gyroscopes and not figuring out that, hey, maybe the Earth just isn't moving.
Exactly. Boy, talk about indoctrinated. Holy smokes, people. And this is why we look at ballers like you guys are just, well, it's unfortunate because we used to be you. And then we broke the indoctrination cycle. And it's so frustrating. We are trying to free your mind. And you would rather live with a lie and be slaves, which is unfortunate. Let's continue.
I'm still just mind boggled over the whole thing. And we're trying so hard to get this free energy from gyroscopes, and we're going to spend decades doing so. But why can't you just make a power plant on top of a hot spring? Hot springs are all over the place. That's free steam energy right there.
Yeah,
right
or even
right
more wind generators or solar. I mean, we could. There's no reason why we couldn't power this.
Solar is really complicated. It's very expensive. I got solar panels on my house, and that was like $40,000.
It shouldn't be that expensive, though.
Ridiculously expensive.
It shouldn't be that.
Yeah.
Solars are like cadmium salts. I mean, they're cheap to make. They're not expensive to make. There's a huge profit margin in them. Ask Dave Weiss. He knows.
Yeah, I spent way too much on my solar panels. They're ridiculous, and if they were to break, I'm gonna be in trouble. So, yeah, my wife and I, that was our biggest regret right there.
Did we show the child's toy yet? I'm not sure.
Not yet. So let's continue on. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, this theory is sound. The Russians aren't stupid. Spending 2 decades to try to do this with the Earth moving. I know it sounds dumb, but it actually works when you do. It can be done. Hooking a generator up, and you'll see it here in a second.
Okay, here we go. Right guy says, do we have a podcast? Yeah, no, we just do YouTube and Rockfin. And actually, before I go on in Rockfin, I'd like to thank May Smith for the tip and Amos for the tip also on Rockfin. Thank you guys. You guys are rock stars. Much appreciated on the tips, because we lose our monetization about every other week, it seems like, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. And let's see, I don't remember seeing any super chats on YouTube, but let me check really quick here real fast. Not seeing one. Wait a second. See all. Hang on a second. Zero proof. Nope. Okay. None on YouTube. All right. So anyway, let's go back and go ahead and watch the rest of the video.
It's not that easy to extract energy from the rotation of the Earth using gyroscopes, but we do know that you can extract energy from a certain movement using gyroscopes. I showed this in a previous video with my gyro exercise ball. With this ball here, after just an initial spin, you can actually get it spinning really fast and extract energy from it. You can see that I'm actually lighting up LEDs here. So just by doing this motion with my arm, it's extracting energy from my arm to light these LEDs.
Right. And like I said, any type of motion can be harnessed to drive some sort of a generator. Ocean waves. I can't believe that they don't have something that does that, right? Waterfalls obviously do. Rivers. Well, they turn those into dams. So to be fair, obviously they do those. Wind generators. So, I mean, there are so many sources. And of course, the biggie, 100 volts per meter, all the way up to 10 million volts before it hits the top of the firmament. There's your free energy. And there's your gravity. There's everything. But all right, let's continue.
Yeah, like I was saying, though, he's doing it right there. The Russians aren't crazy. I mean, it's a child's toy now, what they were trying to do.
That's right.
You can light up something with just the motion of your hand.
And
you can generate
Zack,
electricity.
You could take one of our gyros, one of the gyros that I have, and put a small generator on it and light a string of LEDs. I guarantee it, just by turning it around in circles.
For sure. Oh yeah, the force you feel, the fight that it gives you.
Absolutely. Sure. Anything that offers a resistance is going to give you a source of energy. It's kinetic energy, and all you have to do is figure out a way to interpolate it and harness it. Bada bing. And he's got the right idea here. The Russians had the right idea. If the Earth was spinning, you damn straight the gyro thing would be a great generator. But the Earth isn't spinning. What a bummer. Let's continue.
Keep that going indefinitely as long as my arm's moving. There's no batteries in this whatsoever. I'm applying the power to it by moving my hand back and forth like this. Or you kind of gyrate it around in a circle like this. Now the way the gyro ball works, I explained in a previous video. You can go check that out. I'll put the link in my description. So even if we could do this kind of stirring motion with the rotation of the Earth, we're only doing that once every 24 hours. So it seems like it would be a really hard mechanical device to be able to spin up a gyroscope like we were doing with this gyro ball here. So this leaves...
Yeah, one thing also that I want to mention is, do you guys remember the Eric Lathwaite video where he's doing a demonstration for a bunch of school kids in an auditorium? And basically what he does is he takes this big old huge heavy flywheel that's like 20 or 30 pounds, puts it on the end of about a 5-foot rod and spins it up, and then gives it to this little, I don't know, 8-year-old kid, has little twiggy arms, and then makes him stand on a platform that will automatically rotate, right? So he spins it up, he hands it to the kid. Now, normally, if you had a 50-pound weight at the end of a 5-foot rod, there's no way any adult could pick it up. It would take a muscle man of some sort, right? Let alone a little 8-year-old kid. But when he put that kid on that turning platform, what happened is that rotational energy of the flywheel translated to spinning the platform that the kid was standing on, and the kid was able to hold it at arm's length and lift it way up in the air. A Superman feat, right? That is a demonstration of an antigravitic effect, and it has to do with the spin. Now, there are other antigravitic effects that have been done over the years. I've talked about those several times. The spinning of the ball bearings. Gosh, I forgot who that was, but I'll think of it in a minute. But yeah, there's just a ton of them, absolutely a ton of them. And spinning motion would be one of the easiest things that we could harness. It's just too bad that the Earth's not spinning. Let's continue.
Leaves it a little bit open-ended. We know that we can extract energy by some sort of movement using gyroscopes because we can do it with these gyro balls. But can it be applied to the rotation of the Earth? Well, scientists are still researching this, but so far they haven't been able to do it. Maybe it'll be one of you that will come up with a mechanism that you can take a slow-turning Earth and turn it into a way to extract energy from the rotation using gyroscopes. Now, before we end, I'd like to thank the sponsor for this video, Squarespace. Squarespace helps you connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated members-only content. You can manage your members, send email communication, community on your Squarespace website, share, and schedule your posts too. Also, you can items across the globe, and you can display posts from your social profiles on your.
Okay, so the rest of that's
my pillow.
Yeah,
I always laugh at that. It's just like they're trying to come out so sincere on the radio and with NPR there, and then they just throw in the My Pillow stuff, and it's just like that's so rote. Like it just drives me crazy how they try to just insert that all the time. And I get that they're making money off of it, but it's just a really weird way to do advertising by doing these insincere product placement ads.
Yeah, totally. Whatever. He's got to pay the bills too. I don't fault him for that. I don't fault anybody if you're trying to make a living. I mean, geez,
Hey, if it puts money, if it puts bread on the table, yeah, I get that. But it's just kind of an odd way to do that.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, guys, I mean, the proof it's unbelievable out there, and all of it completely, when you look at it and you critically analyze it, everything that the Globers claim for proof is absolute bullshit. None of it works. I'm sorry. They cannot prove it. They have no measurements. They have no hard data. They have nothing that uses the scientific method that will prove their point. And, they are reduced to calling people stupid and names and telling us to go to school. Boy, talk about not getting the point, right? Why don't you go back to school? I was like, I did go to school. I'm an engineer. I'm a pilot. Okay. But I'm not stupid, but I also understand that what I was taught in school was far from the big picture, right? I was one of the fortunate people, like many people in our audience, that have been able to see beyond that and apply what I do know towards, kind of correcting the wrongs, righting the wrongs. That's why we do GLOBEBUSTERS, because I try and pass this information on to other people, because the only way that we're ever going to change this is by having an educated and informed public out there. And so that's what we're trying. And you guys are all the emissaries to be able to distribute this information. All of the GLOBEBUSTERS team are very committed to this. And, we know that I see all of you people known it for a long, long time. You guys are all very dedicated to it too. You see it, it's clear. And we want to change the world. Why? Because we want a better world for ourselves. We want a better world for our kids. We just want a better world. And we don't, the way that it's run right now is absurd. And this is probably one of the best times to really be hitting this hard, because the powers that be have gone insane, absolutely insane. And I'm telling you, if you can't see it now, there's no hope for you. You're blind, you're lost, give it up. Sorry, but for those of you who do see, you have to realize when you think it through logically that we better do something about it, because nobody's going to come and, save our bacon. It's going to be us. And even if there is a savior, well, what is the saying? God help those who help themselves. Well, if we're in there putting in 110%, then we can probably expect that help from higher power. Okay. Whether you believe that or not, I don't know, but I do know that positive intent, positive attitude, positive intention makes things happen. And we all know the truth. And that's why it's not productive to try and argue with trolls. It's a waste of time. What you want to do is you want to teach people that are willing to learn, that do see a problem, and, leave the trolls to their worshiping the devil or whatever they do. It's just,
or make them work for you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Anyway, I guess that's about it for that. My God, we've been over 2 hours already.
Make the trolls work for you. I want to get that clear. Make the trolls work for you. Make sure they put some skin down on the table and make them work for you.
I know, because what really bugs me is, there are so many people that clearly to me are J-Trig operatives. If you don't know what J-Trig is, it's basically an intelligence operation that puts counter propaganda in to push the lie, right? And there are tons of people that are on those payrolls. Largely, a lot of them they recruit from the gamers, because, like I said, I don't know what it is about gamers, but they seem to have them under some sort of a trance where they can get them to go in and, troll, and they pay them decent money and whatever. And when people are trying to learn something and you have people that are coming in there talking about how stupid they are and how they shouldn't breed and anything like that, well, believe it or not, that's really effective with a lot of people. And of course, the powers that be know that, right? That's why I say you don't even engage them. You don't engage them with your time or your effort. And that's why the way we do this in GLOBEBUSTERS is we teach to people that want to learn. I'm not interested in debating people. Oh, I'd be interested in debating Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'd do it in a heartbeat, but that would be one of the rare things. If it's somebody that really mattered, I'd be all over it. But other than that, I wouldn't waste my time. You know, even though a lot of you people are really good at it and, you know, you do a good job, you know, Nathan Oakley and their team, they do a good job in what they do and stuff. But, you know, of course, my problem with them, of course, is they tend to attack flat earthers too, which is not good, but whatever. We won't go there. But
yeah, there's no point. There's no sense in letting them poison your mind space. You know,
Exactly.
they're there to try and chew you up and tear you apart and just, you know, just treat you like crap. And so if they're going to treat you like that, you know, don't let that, you know, bother your mind space. It's yours. You know, you don't want that negative energy in your life.
Yep. That's
Oh,
true.
yeah,
Hey,
they don't even get any reaction out of me. It's just, oh, I know that name. Delete, 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 delete. There's trolls from 2016 still commenting on my videos. And some of them are from like back in 2016 because someone else has seen it and commented on it. And then they go and try to put a comment behind them still.
yeah. And if they're not
You know,
doing it for a
videos that are
paycheck,
5,
then,
6 years old.
yeah, if they're not doing it for a paycheck, then they are the biggest losers ever. You know,
Yeah.
it's like who in their right mind would ever do that? You know, troll for years, flat earthers with the same old rhetoric, you know, doxing people, everything that they can do to discredit people. I mean, their MO is so obvious. It's crazy. So, hey, I see Cami joined us. How long have you been here?
It's
Oops.
It's the whole paradigm shift.
Yeah.
When they've dedicated their entire life to one thing, and then all of a sudden something challenges that, they kind of freak out there, and they've got to fight it with everything they've got, just because it's so threatening to their whole world of view, or their whole point of view.
Yep, exactly. And hey, thank you, FE Nation, for the tip. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. And how long have you been here, Cami? How'd your interview go?
Interview went, I think it went really good. We had fun. We talked about so many different things, and this was with Mikey at KGUP. We were all over the place, and I know he likes to edit and put things nice and pretty, so I know I made a lot of work for him to do, because we were just all over the place with questions and had a blast doing it.
No description, and it's a long video.
Sorry.
And no, I got here in time. I finished the show and got over here just as you were saying, whoa, we've been on a couple of hours. I guess it's about time to call it a show. So I thought that would be a good time to say hi.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm trying to keep them, you know, down a little bit from 3 hours, because 3 hours is a lot of show. It really is, and it's kind of hard to keep people's attention. And I'm sure I'm not always the most exciting person to listen to, but anyway. So
shout out Mike in the chat, by the way. He just joined us in the chat here too under KGUP Presents, if anybody wants to subscribe to his channel and see what we're up to.
Yep, awesome. And by the way, Dave Weiss, Flat Earth Dave, is on live right now under Full Spectrum Universe. He's on doing I guess, flat smacking these people. He sent a notice in there. So if you want to go in there after that, let me post the link in the chats. Let me do this real quick here, and I'll put it in both of them. You can head over.
He was just on Coast to Coast, and the interview went amazing, just stellar. I couldn't believe it. After they had Mark Sargent on those years ago, and the way that interview went, it wasn't the greatest. You know, he was kind of snarky and condescending a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
David and him got along fabulously, and it just, it went really well.
Yeah, it was a good interview. you guys didn't hear the Coast to Coast with George Noory, fabulous. I mean, he knocked it out of the ballpark.
Was it Art Bell that did it with
Originally, he's dead now though.
I know, but did he do it with Mark Sargent? Or was it that George Noory?
No, that
as
was
well?
George Noory. Bell's been dead for several years.
Yeah, and I understand. I mean, 2015, 2016, whenever that was, when Mark was on, there was a lot more people laughing at it, you know, and hadn't heard about things. But now, you know, it's more of a, people know that there's a lot of flat earthers out there. Even if you haven't looked into it, you know a flat earther most likely. And yeah, the interview just went great.
I just think it's interesting how we're continually out there, continually looking to find people to talk to about this kind of stuff, right? That's what we're doing. And yet when we go to try and talk to the major educators out in the world, all of the college professors, they turn us down. And we're trying to say, hey, we can do this very respectfully. I just want to ask you some questions and just do a really basic interview, because you guys, if it was National Geographic, yeah, sure. I'm sure you'd do it for National Geographic or a lot of the other major money in the world. But when it comes to just the little people, oh, nope, I don't want anything to do with you. And, you know, they won't give us the time of day. I think it's just, you know, very telling right there, the way the colleges have their response to all this. And it's just, nope, we don't want to talk about that.
Yep, absolutely. None of your business. Thank you so much for the super chat. Much appreciated. And Alliance Crew, thank you so much also. Very much appreciated. Let's see. And I think I have, is that everybody else? Yep. Okay. And that's it for the super chat. So guys, we're going to call it a show. I did have some other stuff on here, but I'm trying to keep the length of the shows down a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And Kyle, you got anything coming up that you want people to know about or look forward to?
Well, my next thing on my production schedule is to do some translating. I want to go and help people get to know the Spanish community out there, which is huge. It's even bigger than the English
way
flat
bigger
Earth community.
Way
and
bigger.
So what I want to do is I'm going to take some of the really notable videos and I want to start translating them into English so people can kind of get a better understanding and kind of experience what they're talking about over there. And there's a lot of just total gems over there too that the English community should really be aware of.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep. Excellent. Okay. Well, that's good to hear. And Cami, obviously, did KGOP, when is your interview coming out? Oops.
I'm back here. There is a possibility. I'm putting his channel now in there. There's a possibility it might be on Monday. It might be after Monday or even the Monday afterwards or that, because we did do a lot of stuff to edit through and that we went in a lot of different directions. We got talking and didn't start the show until like, oh my God, we've talked for over an hour and a half. So he'll have to go through the talking points there and put him back into the show. And that I didn't make it easy for him. I put the link out there. If you subscribe to him, you will get a notification for when it comes out. And if you think about it, come join us there at the premiere.
Awesome.
We had a lot of fun doing it.
Sounds good. Okay. And Zach, around to you. What do you got coming up?
Tomorrow I'll be on Ironworks at 5 a.m., about 9 hours away from right now. And then tomorrow evening, we're having Paul on the Plane on the Iron Realm Media channel on our Have No Sphere show. So that's going to be awesome. I haven't heard from Paul in a while, but yeah, just a great guy, and I can't wait to get back in touch with him.
Yeah, Paul is one of my favorite flat earthers for sure. He's a great guy. And yeah, he did some great stuff with on the moon landing debunkings. I can't remember that guy's name that he was with. But anyway, just fabulous material. I'd like to see him get active again. That would be nice. But it's a step in the right direction going on Iron Realm. So there you have it. All right. I think that is it for everything, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, did you have something else, Kyle?
Oh, this is your wife. Oh, we both jumped in, Kyle. I'm going to jump in first and then let you do it again. I have an update that they're going to release the show Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I will also be on Iron Realm tomorrow night with Zack and Paul and Josh and everybody else. So, okay, Kyle, your turn.
Okay, I was just going to say here that I really want to go do more to highlight more of the young and starting Flat Earth channels out there. And so if anyone has a link to one of the new Flat Earth channels out there that really stands out to them, go ahead and drop a link. I'd love to add them to my list. I've got a list of over 150 Flat Earth channels that I'm aware of, that I'm keeping track of and kind of watching their growth. And I love cheering on everyone in the Flat Earth community and watching everyone grow. So yeah, just if there's anyone out there that you want to highlight, drop a link in the comments and I'll be looking for it.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And yeah, they have some really good stuff too. We'll cover it as we, go over the basics, because that's what this season is going to be very much focused on, is back to the basics. I could do 10 shows on the fallacies behind the globe, and I might, who knows? It's honestly, at this point, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. They are so pathetic, and yet they are so arrogant, because every university teacher believes it. The government believes it. They all believe the lie, and they just think that, oh, you guys are crazy insane, but we know better, don't we? All right, guys. Love y'all. We will see you on Sunday. Until then, be good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind. There's truth inside. Peace out.